welcome back to another edition of the Here We Go podcast. I am your host, Trent Ging. You know my co-host, Colin Phillips. Colin, how you doing this evening?
Hey, good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So obviously we are recapping the Commanders. Um, I feel like I'm like overselling this, but I really don't think I am. It's a huge win against the team. It's a really good team. I think they're going to make their own run to the playoff and probably get in on the NFC side. It feels like right now they might be either the second or third best team in the NFC. How do you feel about them?
Yeah, they're probably the fourth best team in the NFC. I think, Detroit, Green Bay, and then them and Philly are kind of, I guess them and Philly are kind of hand in hand, like kind of just like whoever's better that week is better. I think it's going to be really fun to see who wins that division, the NFC East, because it's pretty obvious the Giants and Cowboys are out of it. And no, you're not overselling at all. I think it's one of the bigger. It was a must win, if we're being honest, Trent. I mean, it truly was a must win. There's a few must wins on this schedule. This was one of them. Coming up, you're looking at one of Cleveland is a must win, one of Baltimore, one of Cincy. Ideally, both of Cleveland. So yeah, no, definitely a huge win. No way to undersell that.
Yeah, I mean, it puts us at 7-2, and you have to feel like if you get 10 wins, you have a real good shot at making the playoffs. So, I mean, put ourselves in a position right now where we're just a hair over the midpoint of the season, and we only need 3 wins to have a shot to get to the playoffs at this point, right? So I just felt like from that standpoint, playing a good team, this isn't like, hey, this is Atlanta week 1 that turns into be a good win, but you didn't know what you were getting with Kirk Cousins. He was still immobile. And you hear like excuses about every win we've had so far, right? But like this is one where, they're not missing their quarterback. They're not missing like their top receiver. Like this was Jaden Daniels, who's been playing very well coming into this game, and a 2-loss team by their own right coming into this game. And I thought we handled business pretty well. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Scored a lot of points. We had 28 points, but it just didn't feel like the offense ever really truly got a ton of traction in this one. I thought the offensive line played pretty bad. What did you feel like the offensive, as far as the offensive line?
Well, I think the offensive line, like looking at the all-22, I don't think that the optics will say that, yes, they did play bad, which I could see where you're coming from. I think in terms of run blocking, yes, absolutely, they were bad, just all across the board. Pass blocking wasn't as bad as you would think. Most of them graded out pretty well pass blocking. Broderick Jones had his very best day as a Steeler yet.
I agree.
82.7 pass block grade. Dan Moore, another pretty darn good day pass blocking, 77.6. Let's take a look here. McCormick, 69.7. Let's see. Sayamalo was noticeably bad. And I told Flip about this as well, that I thought Sayamalo and Frazier as a collective had by far their worst game. But the thing is, to me, and the reason I say that it weren't as bad as the optics would show, Washington did a really good job of like delayed blitzing and stunts in general. I think Dan Quinn does a fucking absurdly good job with that defense and the way that they blitz. But yeah, pass blocking as a whole, I don't think was terrible. They just did a really good job of like delayed blitzing and kind of, stuff that's gonna confuse a super young offensive line. But run blocking, yes, I would say that this was a very uncharacteristically bad pass blocking game. A run blocking.
I know what you meant. How much of the grading do you feel like is affected by Russ was moving around really well. I feel like he was
moves around a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I think Russ moves around a little bit too much, Trent. I think he's got to understand he's still 35. And I remember posting about this during the game. If I had $1 for every time that Russell Wilson throws the damn ball away, I would be a quadrillionaire. Like his completion percentage was 14 of 28, which is, 50%. He had 6 of those were throwaways. It just comes down to like, dude, I get it. Getting rid of the ball, it's smart. the good move. Kenny Pickett did not. Justin Fields had a tough time doing it at times too, but it's like sometimes you don't really have to get rid of it. Sometimes there's a check down there. I think it feels like he's so terrified to throw over the middle of the field when he's pressured. I don't know. I thought this was definitely an off game from Russ. I don't want to see anything like that again because the way he handled pressure was really nerve wracking.
Yeah, I mean he was running around a lot, and to be honest with you, I think his mobility was better than what were thinking it was going to be
Probably.
before he played. I thought he actually moved around pretty well, all things considered. And there was a couple of times I'm like, dude, you got to get rid of it. Dude, you got to get rid of it. Dude, you got to get rid of it. And then like he kind of squirts through like and evades the pressure. So I don't know. I just didn't know how much maybe some of the moving around and maneuvering the pocket, avoiding some of the pressures, factored into some of the grading. I do agree Washington's defense did some really good things to generate some of those pressures. That Luvu kid is talented, man. I liked him. He played a really good game. He definitely kept showing up. You know, and it seemed like he kind of showed up in some big moments for them too. When
Yeah.
they really needed to get off the field, he was making
Yeah.
some third down stuff. So talented kid for sure. But
Yeah.
I agree. Broderick Jones had his best game so far. I mean, he was downhill run blocking, pass protection. There wasn't the "what are you doing" type of scenario that we've seen in weeks past. And I talked about this individually. Like, if anybody on the team needed the bye week, like Broderick Jones needed the bye week to kind of reset himself. And hopefully, this is a sign of things to come down the line. I know that they didn't have like an elite pass rusher. So it'll be interesting to see what happens once we get down to like Cleveland. Does Baltimore try to get Matabuke outside a little bit on him, or does he stay inside? Like I don't know. We'll see how they decide to attack things. We'll break that down in the next episode, obviously. But Russ still. Here's the thing that I think, and I'll get your thoughts on this. Russ did not play a good game overall, but he still had 3 touchdowns. And the deep shots, he was still able to hit those. So even though he was off, I felt like the things he's really good at, he still was able to do. How did you feel about like kind of his performance overall, and how did you evaluate him?
I think it's very telling that Russ played his worst game as a Steeler so far, and we still scored 28-1. I think that's definitely like huge. I mean, based on what we've had the last few years, the quarterback's worst game is like 6 points and a loss. So yeah,
Right.
I think it was definitely his worst of the 3 starts. I mean, I don't think you can even argue that. But again, I mean, we still scored 28 points. He still had 3 passing touchdowns. That's really all I have to say about Russell Wilson, honestly.
So I covered this a little bit solo, but I want to get your thoughts on this too. It kind of feels like to me we finally have an offense that doesn't have to be carried to victory by the defense. So like in years past, this would be like a 14-13 game where the defense just holds them down just enough, and we accidentally scored just enough points to get by. Like we scored 28 points, and we're sitting here talking about maybe the offense wasn't that good. Like, how do you feel about that part?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very telling thing about Russell Wilson, especially. I think this is probably going to be the last game we see for a while. Realistically, that we're going to see like a 25 plus point game. I think a lot of the games moving forward are kind of like going to be score 20 and survive. I mean, Alan Saunders said it perfectly with Christopher Carter on Tuesday. I was listening to their show. I forget exactly what Alan said, but it was something along those same lines, like score 20 points and just live with it. And I think that's how it's going to be against Baltimore. You know how these damn Baltimore games go. They're never going to be a pretty 35-28 game. That's just never the case with Baltimore. One team's always got a bunch of drops. The other team's always got a bunch of fumbles and picks. It's just everything is always like who can shoot themselves in the foot less. And then a short week going to Cleveland. Oh God, like you're talking 17-13 score.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the last game until probably Cincy. We're going to probably go a couple of games. Even then, I don't know. I might not even be able to see that. Maybe the second Cleveland game, like mid to late December. I don't know. I don't see it being another one of those big time, 37 to 15 point wins that we'll see, or even like 27 to 28, like this past week was. And it's one of those things with the defense where these next couple games, this defense has to lock in. I mean, we cannot have a game like that with the secondary. That can't happen. Deshaun Elliott, the last 2 games, has not necessarily been invisible, but hasn't played nearly as well. Minkah Fitzpatrick was fine. He uncharacteristically had a bad week of tackling. Again, I'm not going to sit there and worry about that. Dante Jackson, he's hurt again. Hopefully we get Corey Trice back this week. And Joey Porter Jr., I'm not going to worry yet. I'm not going to pull the panic button yet, Trent. But it's got to hit a point where we say, okay, 4 penalties at halftime. He gave up 7 catches for over 100 yards, or 6 of 7 for over 100 yards, and ended the game with 4 or 5 penalties. I think we have to sit there and wonder about that. But I don't think next game against Baltimore is the game that we're going to worry about Joey Porter Jr.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I am encouraged at the offensive scoring despite having some struggles. Like, Najee didn't really get going. He had some moments, but he didn't really get going.
Well, it's because the run blocking was terrible.
Yeah, I thought Jalen Warren looked much more in line with what we were expecting from Jalen Warren. Like, he kind of looked like himself, I felt like, for the first time. We saw a little bit of it right before the bye. I thought you saw some spurts of it, but like, he actually looks like he's Jalen Warren again. So that's encouraging, because I do think the two of them together are better than the individuals solely. I know Najee can carry an offense. We've seen him do that in the past, but I feel like he stays fresher and he runs stronger later in the year as he has Jalen there to kind of split those carries. So I was encouraged by that part. And then George Pickens, man. George had another just ridiculous catch.
Unreal.
What were you first thinking when you saw that ball floating in the air and then he makes that adjustment?
Well, at first glance, I didn't think it was like unreal as it was. Like, I was just like, oh, he just made a really nice adjustment. Good work. Thanks, George. And then like you see the replay and you're like, oh my God, what? He had a couple plays, man. I mean, the one sideline catch on the game, and not the game-winning drive, the drive before that, when Najee scored. I mean, by the way, perfect ball by Russell Wilson, but the body control to be able to get 2 feet in that and just adjust super late to the ball. Fantastic game by George Pickens. He was one of a kind this week. That's what we need more often. And then I don't want to ruin anything here. I'm going to take a look at this, see if I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. Yeah, so I won't get ahead of ourselves here, but yes, George Pickens, unreal game from him again.
Yeah, I was actually, so my boy had a soccer tryout Sunday, and it was right in the middle, of course, during the game. So I'm like on my cell phone watching the game as he's sitting there practicing in the pouring down rain, and I'm watching that thing happen, and I'm like, dang, I should have brought my tablet so I could have it set up so I could see that in a bigger screen. But that was a ridiculous catch. I mean, the body control he has is absolutely just incredible. The late hands down the sideline. It was a great throw by Russ, but George just using like the late hands to come up to catch the ball without tipping off the cornerback. The ball is in air. Like, I thought that was a good job by him. And then of course he keeps both feet in on that sidelines. That was a huge play. And again, when you're talking about your quarterback has 190 yards or so passing, like, those plays matter. Like, you need every one of those to win a game like that. And that's exactly what he did. So George played a lot. I mean, he's way more engaged now too. Like, we've not talked about him.
Russell Wilson's unlocked him for sure.
Yes, and there was a play, and I forget, it was in the second half, and it was one of these plays where Najee's kind of running through the A gap on the left side of Zach Frazier, I think it was, and he hits the pile, and George is blocking the corner, and he kind of like shoves him out of the way, and as Najee hits the pile, he kind of like stops, and then Najee like squirts through there for a second, and I'm like, George runs down the corner to try to re-engage, and I'm like, we never would have seen that in the beginning half of the year.
No.
Like he never would have given that effort, and I'm like, that's telling to me now that like he's bought in, like, and he didn't have to make the block because then Najee ended up getting tackled, but like the fact that he saw him squirt out and like hurried up and tried to get back in front of the corner to make a block, and I'm like, okay, like if we get this kind of George Pickens the rest of the year, like that's very dangerous for the rest of the NFL because we've already seen I've not seen anybody lock this dude up yet. And I was watching Derek Bell break down some of the film earlier today, and he talked about how they were playing, with at least one, sometimes two safeties over top of George, and he's still putting up this kind of production. And then you have to feel like a guy like Mike Williams comes in and is going to do nothing but help that, right? So we didn't have a whole lot to look at with Mike Williams, but do you think maybe some people overreacted and said, he can't win deep anymore?
Well, and I don't know. I think one thing that we have to talk about with Russell Wilson, George Pickens, and Mike Williams, did we play a very bad secondary? Yes. Yes, we did. Benjamin St. Juste is a bottom 5 corner in this league. Emmanuel Forbes and Mike Sainristil are not very good. Granted, I like Sainristil. I think he's a damn good corner. He's just a rookie. He's a rookie slot corner. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Their safeties aren't very good. Jeremy Chin's not all that great anyway. Fantastic tackler, but whatever. I just find it funny that like all of us fans, we were all either this is a great move or this is a terrible move. I was the latter, and dude plays 7 snaps, has 1 target, and that's a 32-yard game winner. Like you can't make this shit up. Like,
No.
truly, I literally looked at my mom and I said, you cannot make this shit up. Like you just can't. Like 7 fucking plays all game. 6 of them were run blocking plays.
Yes.
One of them's a pass, one of them's a target, and it's a damn 32-yard game winner against a 7-2. It's unreal to me. It is unreal. Again, you just can't make this up. And whatever. If he's only good for one play a game, I don't care if it's that. Like if it's that, I don't care.
And it's interesting because Russ, I don't know if you saw this, but Russ told him he'd get the ball. And he basically, going into the drive, not even that play, just going into that drive because Calvin Austin was in that like concussion protocol or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he said, hey, you're going to have to play Cal's spot and you're going to get the ball on this drive. So be ready. And they said he had to call the play in and then just say, Mike, you're running a go route. Like, yeah, he doesn't know any of the plays yet. So that's why he's not getting the snaps, obviously. And he's like, just run straight, beat the corner, and hit a game-winning touchdown. Like, what? And then Tomlin's celebration on the side. Welcome to Pittsburgh. You're officially a Steeler now. I love it.
Unreal human being. Unreal.
That's amazing. So I love that. Your boy Muth. The numbers don't jump off the page, but I thought they found a matchup they really liked against Jeremy Chin, and they exploited that and really felt like they started to scheme up some plays to get him involved. How did you see that unfolding?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, in terms of Muth himself, Arthur Smith was in his bag. I thought, in terms of in the red zone and definitely the fourth quarter, Arthur Smith was in his bag calling plays for sure. The 1 third down conversion on the game-winning drive, fabulous play call. You got Van Jefferson stemming outside on a 3-step slant. You got Muth in man coverage, and you're just like, hey, go make a play on an in-breaking route. And then Pickens and Williams are running like a post-wheel combo over there. Great play there. Obviously, he had the touchdown catch, which I love to see. He's the $48 million man. He needs to be scoring touchdowns. So, I don't really care about the stats itself. If he's scoring, if he's making big catches on third down, not once but twice in this game,
yes,
can't complain. Can't complain.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at with it too. It's like this is the first time I felt like we've used him as like this third down weapon. And they found a matchup they really liked, and they exploited that matchup multiple times. And they were big plays. It wasn't just like he was getting some catches and getting involved in the game. Like they were big plays, big moments, kept the drive alive, or the one obviously was the touchdown. And I'll tell you what, Van Jefferson did a great job of just not making that look like a pig play. He was in the way, but he did a great job of turning back to the quarterback and showing his hands rather than like how they, a lot of times will run into each other. It was
Yeah, it
great
was
to see.
he ran. It was like it was like a hitch route. Honestly, like
Yeah,
it
he just
was
kind of had
fantastic play call again. Like I
yes,
ran a hitch route. George Pickens did, I think, a deep dig or something. But yeah, it was a great play call for sure. Um, I like seeing Muth involved, and it was cool because I was telling my buddy about this too, because like it's cool to see that we score. Not only do we score 28, which again, I mean that's 28 is a successful game anyway. Um, but you have Najee, Fryermuth, Pickens, and Mike Williams. You're easily, unquestionably, your four best playmakers are the four guys that scored. I don't know why, but aesthetically speaking, that's very pleasing to see. Like your four best playmakers are your four touchdowns. So
right. I like that. Listen, I don't think Arthur Smith is getting nearly as much attention and as much love as that guy deserves. Like I
no,
feel like he has been calling whether it's worked or not. The play calls, the play designs, the setting up something for down the road with some of the play calls he calls earlier in the game. Like, dude, I think Arthur Smith has done a fantastic job. And I know like everybody wanted the younger, kind of the sexier picks, the Ben Johnsons of the world and things like that. Like, I don't know how much more you get out of this offense right now than what Arthur Smith is. So let's take a couple minutes and just talk about Arthur and what do you think about what you've seen from him so far?
I mean I've been pretty. I've given him his kudos all year long. I thought he was pretty lazy in the second, third quarter, and first three quarters, honestly. I think the fourth quarter he was really good. In the red zone, he was excellent, play calling wise. But I thought he got a little lazy. I don't think we'll see a defense like this all year. To be honest with you, not only in terms of lack of talent, but kind of like schematically the way they're set up. Like, why is Dante Fowler the best player on that defense right now? Like it, other than frankly Louvu, like I don't know. I think he just honestly did a really good job exploiting how weak the linebackers and safeties are in coverage. I think with the way they went right behind Bobby Wagner multiple times, they went right in front of Frankie Louvu multiple times. They had Muth manning up on, or I guess Jeremy Chin manned up on Muth, and Muth clearly won that. I think that's the best thing that Arthur Smith has done all year is kind of exploiting defenses very in bold weaknesses, and he continued to do that today. Not today, but this week with how bad their linebackers and safeties are in coverage.
I think he's done a great job of just playing to the weaknesses of each team each week, and really finding matchups that he likes. Because it's not like he's been kind of running the same play designs and the same. Yeah, of course we want to run the ball. Like that's who our team is. We want to run the ball first and then work off of the run. But we've also seen him utilize Russ to open the run up with his passing game. Like it's just he's utilized a very specific strategy every week, and he's made adjustments on the fly. I mean, the run game did not work in this one, and the pass game was rough, but he was still able to find ways to call plays to manufacture drives, like meaningful drives, to get us in the end zone and get enough on the board to win this game. And I think he's done a fantastic job so far. He's still like they obviously found something with Darnell Washington. They like to get those little dump passes off to him and let him work in space with his size. Like we saw some targets from him, didn't amount to a ton this time, but like you can see he's finding things he likes, and he's trying to find the right moments to do all these different things. I can't say enough for what he's done, and I know you and I have talked a lot about him, but I just feel like the
Yeah,
Pittsburgh media hasn't talked nearly as much as we have about him.
we've given him his kudos. We have.
For sure, for sure. Something I thought was interesting from that game too. It wasn't on our sheet here, but um, we had Patterson and Jalen Warren back in the return game, and we just cannot seem to generate a ton off of this new kickoff rule. I mean, did you expect more out of this than what we've seen so far this year?
No, because we really haven't had an electric kick returner like ever.
Yeah. I mean, that was what Patterson was supposed to be brought here for, though, right? Like,
But
and
he's
this
not
was
even
really
healthy right now. Like he's
no.
clearly not still not healthy. And like Jalen Warren, yeah, he's cool, but like, come on. I think it was a good signing today, Jamal Agnew. I like that.
Yeah. Which I think he's going to be brought in for possibly Calvin Austin, because now if Austin does miss this week, if he doesn't make it out of the concussion protocol, Agnew is a punt returner, right? I think Scotty Miller might get the first shot at the punt return because I think he's the backup on the depth chart right now.
Yeah,
But
but Agnew's kind of a return
Agnew's probably,
specialist.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's probably a little better suited for that role. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays out.
Yeah, Agnew's a special teamer. Scotty Miller's just a wide receiver 5. That's really all it comes down to.
Yep. Outside of that, I don't know. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball, because I was going to say, you brought up about obviously, number one, we have a couple of injuries we should look at right now. Alex Highsmith sounds like he's going to miss probably anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. I heard Alan saying about after the game they saw him kind of hobbling around. Didn't look anything serious, but he's still probably going to miss, 2 to 4 weeks, anywhere from that ballpark. But Dante Jackson, if he's hurt, we may see Cam Sutton sliding back outside, or are we going to get Corey Trice back? Because he still hasn't had his 21-day window opened up yet. So how comfortable are you going to be if Jackson happens to miss some time and seeing Cam Sutton slide back outside? Because he did not play very well in this game.
I mean, nor did Dante Jackson. Dante Jackson
No.
hasn't had a good game in like 4 weeks. So I mean, flip a coin between those two. Trice, I think Allen had said if it's not this week, it's next week against Cleveland. Or no, if it's not next week against Cleveland, it's the longer week against Cincy. Whatever. Hopefully
Right.
he's back, but he needs to get his ass back. Dante Jackson, man, he's been kind of hurt all year. It's like every week you're seeing him on the injury report, and we knew that coming in. We thought we had depth with Corey Trice, but he's made a glass too. Cameron Sutton coming back is nice. We might see a lot of James Pierre. You don't ever really know. But by no means is the corners what I mean. Again, I hate to get us ahead of ourselves about Baltimore because I think about it too damn much. But that's not my worry of concern going against Baltimore. You're going against Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers. Anyway, yeah, no, we're probably going to see a lot more Cam Sutton and a lot more James Pierre, and then Trice whenever he gets back. Let's just hope Dante gets healthy. Regarding Alex Highsmith, he had another fantastic game. Go figure. But again, go figure, he's fucking hurt again. This is like the 13th time this year the guy's been hurt. Figure it out, kid. Luckily, Preston Smith's a stud. And so is Nate Herbig. So we'll get them both. We'll have both of them at our disposal this week as well. Definitely one of them taking over for TJ Watt and the other one on the other side. I like Preston Smith. He had a fantastic game. I mean, you're looking at 72.1 overall grade, 72.4, or I'm sorry, 72.4 in coverage, 56.7 in pass rush, over 71 in the run defense. So I think he had a good game. I was really happy with what I saw.
Yeah, for a guy who shows up, basically Wednesday, and then gets some pretty meaningful snaps throughout that game. I mean, he was on the field right down at the end of the end of the game there. So I thought he acclimated really well to the defense, and he was from a 3-4 defense in Green Bay, obviously, before they switched this year. So he's comfortable in that role. I do think that it was a big signing from the fact that he is a better run stuffer than Nick Herbig is. So Herbig, you may see on the field in more pass rush heavy situations. He's going to be in the run heavy situations. So he's probably going to play a lot in Baltimore, quite frankly. But I thought overall the defense looked really good. And I thought they did some of the things that, we had been waiting on and we had talked about going into the game. Like, are they ever going to change things up? Are they just going to stay in this very simplified basic defense where they just, we talked about this before, just Alex and TJ go win a football game? Like, we finally changed some things up. We generated some pass rush. We blitzed a lot more. And I thought we made James Daniels look a little bit more uncomfortable than what we've seen from him all season. How did you feel about the defense and some of the schematics that we used in this one?
Hats off to Terrell Austin. I I think Terrell Austin called a nice game. Patrick Queen had by far his best game of the year. And again, the secondary issues, like I had said earlier, I don't see that sustaining. Um,
No.
I don't see like Joey Porter Jr. having consistent bad games or Minka Fitzpatrick and Deshaun Elliott being invisible. I don't see that. I think Cliff Kingsbury runs a really good offense over there. One of the better offenses schematically that we'll really see all year. Um, yeah, Daniels definitely looked uncomfortable. You could tell he was a rookie for sure. I mean, Cam
Yeah.
Hayward really does feed off of the attention that Watt and Highsmith gets, which is both good and bad. And again, I think that it was Terrell Austin had one job, and that was to make this rookie look like a rookie, and we sure as hell did. So that was fantastic.
I'll say this. I felt like the defense, the reason they were winning was because Washington wanted to spread the field out, but Alex Highsmith kept winning off the edge, and he kept pushing Daniels up. And then you had Benton and Cam Hayward especially really collapsing the middle of that pocket back into his lap, and it just Daniels just seemed like he had a little bit of happy feet, like he didn't know where to go because Alex kept winning off the edge every time he's dropping back, and then you saw them change in the second half. And there was times where it's an obvious passing situation, and they had two guys on the outside chipping, were staying in the block, and then you've got seven guys out of your 11 on the field that are trying to help block your edge rushers, and that's where I think Washington it took away from their play design and what they like to do, and it really kind of gave us a chance, and it helped the secondary in the second half, to be honest with you, um, because Daniels he did look like a rookie for the first time this season, and I thought that he was uncomfortable. I think that he didn't see a lot of open field. Sometimes his receivers didn't help him out either. He had a few drops in this game for plays that he should have made that the receiver just didn't help him out on. So um, rush defense. I saw some people saying that the rush defense looked terrible. Did you get that in this game that our run defense was bad?
I think that's kind of inflated by the fact that there was 3 rushing touchdowns given up. Yes, I or no 4, right? Wasn't all 4 of their touchdowns on the ground? Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, all
yeah.
4 of their touchdowns were on the ground. That obviously is going to play a huge role into something like that. It was like what 60 something yards given up.
60 total rushing yards.
How many yards per carry do they even have?
It was, let's see, 2.7. And I saw a lot of people, and I'm like, where are you guys getting this from? They're like, oh, Baltimore is going to run for 200 yards. Did you see what Washington just did to us? I'm like, 60 yards? I'm like, Jaden Daniels by himself had been averaging like 56, and he had 5. Like,
Yeah,
what are you
man.
guys seeing that I'm not seeing?
Yeah, man. Listen, the whole game was an off game. It was inflated anyway because realistically, that's a 35-21 game anyway. If we don't fucking fake a punt on our own
Big
15
fun.
yard line and miss it, and then if Jalen Warren, the fucking shit dick, doesn't fumble on the 1 yard line, it's a 35-21 game. Realistically, I'm not going to go crazy about it. I mean, I guess in terms of run defense, maybe the PFF guys, I could see the argument. We only had in terms of run defense, we had one guy over 70. That was Patrick Queen. Number 2 best was absurdly ironic. It was Joey Porter Jr. at 67.4. Everybody had a terrible run defense game. Deshaun Elliott was good again. Minka was right on par. Yeah, I mean, again, maybe I could see it from the PFF guys, but overall, I don't really think so at all. Granted, all 4 touchdowns were on the ground for them, sure, but he was like
Yeah.
you said, what 2.6 yards a carry and like 62
Two,
yards.
yeah, 2.7 and 60 yards rushing
Yeah,
is
whatever.
their team stats. Like,
All I say to that is whatever. It's whatever.
I don't know how many yards you want to hold a team to, but 2.7 at 60 yards total is pretty dang good. Like, I mean, they were under 300. They didn't even make 250 yards of total offense in Washington. So, what else did you want this defense to do? To me, that's a dominant performance by your defense. Like, I feel like that's a defense doing exactly what their job is. Um, so, out of curiosity, what was Cam Hayward's run grade? because I thought he played pretty well all around.
50.3.
That's interesting.
The front four all had bad rushing games. The linebackers were unreal running rush defense. Honestly, that's really the whole. And I thought that watching the L-22, it felt like. And let's be perfectly clear when we say this Commanders' offensive line has some studs. I mean, Tyler Biadasz is a hell of a center. Sam Cosme has had a really nice year at guard for them. Their tackles are pretty rock solid as well in terms of run blocking. And then Nick Allegretti was literally the lead blocker in 3 of their 4 touchdowns. And so he's had a pretty good year as well. I'm not going to go crazy about the way that the defensive line, again, when I say off game, Trent, in so many ways was it an off game. Joey Porter had an ass backwards performance as to what he usually does. He was like a great tackler and run defender, but had a fucking terrible game in coverage. That's not going to continue.
Right.
I mean, Minkah Fitzpatrick had a 29.3 tackling grade. Our offensive line was terrible run blocking, which is unreal. It's just an off game in general. I'm not going to go crazy about the defense or the defensive line or the front four in general. Flip and I had talked about that as well. We're not going to go crazy. I think it really goes to show how much the other 3 really do benefit from TJ Watt getting so much attention, so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because 2 of the people we've been kind of a little critical of is Broderick Jones and Patrick Queen.
And they had both of their best games.
Both of them had their best games of the year.
It's exactly why it was an off game. Yes.
Patrick Queen had the kind of game that you signed this guy to come here to have. I mean, he contained Jaden Daniels all game. And actually, there was a play where they ran a run action. He jumps into the A gap on the offensive right side. Jaden Daniels pulls the ball and runs out left, and Patrick Queen beats him to the corner to limit it to like a 3-yard gain. And I'm like, if you can track that dude down, that's crazy speed because Jaden Daniels, he's not just one of the fastest quarterbacks in the NFL. That dude's one of the faster players in the NFL. Like that was impressive. And I'm like, this is the game we've been waiting for, and now it made me feel a little bit more comfortable about Baltimore because I'm like, if you can track a kid like this down, Lamar Jackson, he's got the same speed. He has a lot of that same skill set. Yeah, he's more polished at this point in his career because he's a veteran player. But it makes me feel like, yeah, you can let Patrick Queen spy on Lamar Jackson and try to limit some of that run as long as you have. And let me bring up another guy here. Landon Roberts played a fantastic game. Played a lot more than we've seen him play. He and Peyton Wilson kind of switched their roles in this one. And I felt like that was part of.
Peyton Wilson had a good game too.
Yeah, I felt like that was part of why we limited the rushing yards because he played, I think, 59% of the snaps, if I'm not mistaken. It was something like that. I think that it was like 59% of the snaps maybe for Landon Roberts. But if you can have that guy run fill and let Queen chase around these super athletic quarterbacks, man, he was really good out in space in this one. So I thought both those middle linebackers, that's probably the most complete game we've seen out of the middle linebackers all season, quite honestly.
All 3 of them played well. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved it. I liked what we saw there. Do you think Cam Hayward's the best player on this defense right now?
No.
Who would you put as your best defender? Is it still TJ?
TJ, Minkah. Elliott makes an unreal case.
Yeah.
But Cam's definitely top 3 to top 5. I'd put him anywhere in the 3 to 5 range. I just think 90 and 39 are untouchables at this point. Like, unfortunately, like, did you see what Derek Bell posted today about how the impact that Minkah Fitzpatrick makes?
Oh, yeah, I agree. I saw that. I saw an article.
Cam Hayward is light, and dude, Cam Hayward. Nothing against him. He is lighting up the stat sheet because of the fact that Watt gets triple teamed and Highsmith is starting to get double teamed now. Like, that is why the interior defensive line are kind of eating. Why do you think Larry Ogunjobi's had by far his best year statistically?
Yes.
Because those edge rushers are getting murdered, and maybe it could be a part of the fact that our middle linebackers haven't had great seasons. I could see that argument as well. But as great as Cam Hayward is, he really is having like such a good year due to the absurd amount of attention that 56 and 90 are getting. But, again, I'll agree with you. He is definitely probably number 3. I think I tried to maybe get a little cute with Elliott there.
Yeah.
I would say he's my third best defensive player. Him and then Elliott and Queen are like 4 and 5 right there. So
Yeah. I don't think he's the best player on defense right now. I mean, as much as
but
I would
he's
love
made a
to
hell
say
of a
it,
case.
he is up there though. He's in the conversation right now because
Oh yeah.
realistically, Cam Hayward is playing well enough that he should be a guy that you try to double team, but you only have so many guys to block. I mean,
You can't block
and when
7
you're
every time. Yep.
yeah, when you're looking at TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, you're going to go ahead and double team those two guys before you try to get a double team on an interior guy. So he's obviously benefiting from that. I totally agree with you on there, but he's winning. I mean, he's winning these one-on-one matchups pretty consistently. 2 sacks in that game. Man, I love what I'm seeing out of Cam Hayward. He looks like he's kind of at that all-pro level again right now. Like he's kind of playing in that all-pro level right now. I think he's in that conversation. I think he might be.
He'll be an all-pro.
He might be third at his position right now in the league. He's in the. I would definitely say he's in the top 5.
Yeah, I would
You could
say
make a case that he could be up in the almost around 3.
probably 4. Yeah, probably. I don't know. That's 3 or 4.
Yeah, he's
3 or
having
4.
a fantastic.
Because one and two are Dexter Lawrence and Chris Jones. Him and Quinnen Williams are like 3A, 3B.
Yeah.
And then after that, it kind of falls off. But yeah, no, he's. I could see the argument for him being the best, but I mean, come on, 90 and 39 are unreal. So
yeah, yep, agreed. I just thought it was interesting because I saw that article out there, and I'm like, I think he might be stretching. Yeah, you can give Cam Hayward some props, but
oh yeah,
I think you're going a little too far to say he's the best player on defense right now. Anything else about the defensive side of the ball from this game that you had a takeaway on?
I think the way that we called the way that Terrell Austin called the game against Washington is exactly what I want to see against Baltimore. Yeah. I'll say that for sure.
Were you surprised that we saw more man coverage in this game? Running quarterback, they were like blindly trusting the fact that Jaden Daniels just was not breaking contain and getting outside and running because
we run the most man coverage in the league against Lamar Jackson every year. Highest percentage of man. So yeah, I think that they were just thinking, okay, this kid's like a little bit worse Lamar, so let's just play him how we play him. And then again, I can't say it enough. People are going to say, oh, well, Terrell Austin, this defense gave up 27 points, so it's not as good as you think. Well, no, because one of their drives started on the 15-yard line, and the other one started at their own or at our 44, I think, off a punt from the back of the end zone. I think it's like the one bad punt. Yeah, one bad punt he's had all year. So they started like they're 44. So both those were touchdown drives. I think we could cut him some slack.
Yeah, totally agree on that. I don't know. I think that this defense is. I felt better about this defense from this game than where I kind of felt like they were from the Giants game, if that makes sense. Because like Daniel Jones starts carving you up, and you're like, oh, this is kind of scary. And then you have the 3rd highest scoring team in the league come into town, or we go into their town, and I mean, you hold them to under 250 yards total offense. Okay, yeah, I mean they scored, sure. Like you said, 2 drives inside their own 50. One of them's from 15 yards away. Okay, stuff happens. I actually felt like that fake punt, like it was
good
such a high risk, high reward that should have worked out. And I mean, he had nothing but green grass in front of him for forever. Like if he catches that, like he probably gets to close to midfield, like pretty easily, and then really had one guy to make miss, and it could be running for a long time. So I don't know. I like the play call. I like the aggressiveness because number one, we haven't seen that as fans from Mike Tomlin, and God, I can't even remember the last time he would ever even consider a fake punt from the 15-yard line.
Well, yeah. I mean, and to go with that again, I'll say it for the trillionth time. It was just an off game in general. That was a very uncharacteristically bad game from the special teams unit in general. Waitman wasn't punting all that great. Kick return coverage was abysmal. Kick return was worse. I mean, and then the fake punt that didn't work out. Just a bad overall game from the special teams, which again, reason number 6,000 why it was just an unusually off game for this team.
I'll say this: Ben Skowronek was back. He and James Pierre make really good gunners out there. I mean, they were on top of the ball every time.
And
there was no return. I mean, and then of course the kid was trying to give us the ball every time we could touch it. But I thought they both had a really good game as a gunner. I know it's hard to sell like special teams to a lot of fans, but like I thought those two really did a great job because we talked about that was an area of concern for us in the
early on, yeah.
No one was getting down there, so I don't know. How did you feel about that part? Did you have any expectations of him coming back off that injury?
I mean, yeah, he was brought in to be a good gunner. That's really the whole case, and he did exactly that. I'm really interested to see if like Agnew and guys like Eric Reed, Eric Reed, sorry. What's the guy's name? Eric Rowe. Thank you. Guys like Eric Rowe and Jamal Agnew actually make the team from the practice squad who gets cut, because I feel like it can't be Pierre. I mean, I don't know if Agnew has like a history of playing gunner, or frankly if Eric Rowe has a history of playing gunner, but none that I know of. So I'm really interested to see for that. So
Rowe's kind of an older guy too. Is he 32?
Something like that
now. Usually guys that age don't get a ton of special
Well, it's like
teams.
we have so many safeties already. Quit the safety gimmick, man. Bring in like a.
I saw you posting about that. That was a good one.
Oh, do we need 13 of them? I mean, come on.
No, we do have a lot of them right now. That's for sure. So let's get into kind of like a more of a broader outlook of things. So I actually touched on this part already earlier, but we're in a good spot right now to make the playoff. How many wins do you think you would feel safe saying we're going to get in if we get this number of wins?
Get in with 10, win a playoff game with 11.
Doable. That's
I don't
still very doable on
because
the list,
because Trent, I don't want to be the team to go into Baltimore or go into Buffalo. I want to be the 5 seed playing Houston, or God forbid Buffalo has like a fall off. I want to be the 5 seed playing Buffalo. I don't want to be like, I want to win the division, but that's out of the question. We're not going to win this division unless.
Listen, these 2 Baltimore games are going to go a long way to determine that.
Trent, if we want to win this division, realistically, we have to go 12-5. Like realistically, come on, Trent, come on, man.
There's a chance. All right, so
we're not going 6-3 to end the fucking year, man. Come on.
We've only lost 2 so far in the first half of the year.
We lost to fucking Dallas and Indy. What the hell do you think Kansas City, Philly, and Baltimore are going to do to us?
Kansas City is definitely going to be a loss.
What do you think Philly's going to? What do you think Philly in Philly? What the fuck do you think they're going to do to us? 36-7. Thank you. Baltimore in Baltimore, 36-7. Thank you. Cincinnati's going to put up 30 a game. Since he's going to put up 30 both games, we're not going to win both. Who the hell knows if we're even going to sweep Cleveland? You know how Tomlin shits the red against Cleveland.
I think the Cleveland stuff's. Listen, I think we win 3 out of 4 between Cincinnati and Cleveland. That's 3 wins right there. We, at minimum, can split with the Ravens.
I think we'll win 5.
As a matter of fact, right now we've kind of dominated the Ravens in regular season play, and throughout the last 3 to 4 years, we've really dominated the Ravens.
And the one thing I will say is that uncharacteristically, all 3 of those North teams have bad defenses. They do.
If we listen, we don't have to shut them down. We just saw against Washington. We don't have to shut a team down to win right now. Our offense is better than what we're used to.
I had said, score.
Listen, I'm not saying we're going to get to 12 wins. I'm just saying I don't think it's unrealistic to say that there's a chance. I think we can put ourselves in position because Eagles, like, they've been a pretty good team. I don't know that they're a dominant team.
But they're hot.
Like,
They're hot
they're
at a
hot
really
right
good
now,
time. They're
but
hot at a really good time.
we got time between now and our game, so we'll see. I mean, there's a lot can change. We could fall off the map between now and then too. Like, football's a crazy sport, but
That's
I
why,
don't think it's out of the
yeah.
possibility to say we can get to 12. I think we get to 11. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know if we get
I
to 12.
I think it's the way I'm looking at it right now, Trent. I think it's disappointing if we don't get to 11.
I
Starting the
agree.
year 7-2, if you can't get to 11-6, we're gonna have some serious conversations, some uncomfortable ones. Because I think I know which conversations we will probably have if we don't win 11 games. I can think of 3. So yeah, I mean for sure, we have to get to 11 to make this season worth it, or to make the 9-game start worth it. I mean, we're 7-2 to even make that worthwhile. We have to go 11-6 at minimum. 12, it's not egregious, but it's like I just can't find 5 more wins on the schedule. Hell, Trent, I could barely see 4. Like barely see 4. I'm thinking right now, like probably 3 more wins the way Tomlin teams are.
I think Cleveland's season's over. I think they're packing it in. I don't
I
think
got to
it's going
see
to
him
be
this
that
week. I got to
competitive.
see him. You know what? And I told Shane this. I have to see Cleveland this week. If Cleveland comes out and shits the bed, oh, we're sweeping the hell out of them. But if they come out and Jameis Winston 4-touchdown gimmick, then I'm like, oh shit, here we go. I don't know.
I
It's
feel
and
pretty
it's
confident we're going to sweep Cleveland, and I think it's a. If I were to put a number to it, I say there's a 65% chance we sweep the Bengals. I just that defense is terrible, dude. They are god awful. I mean, they had a huge lead against the Ravens, and they just completely quit playing defense altogether, and Lamar just tears them apart. Like,
that offense
well,
is just so unreal, Trent. It's so unreal. Like
I
we
think they're averaging like maybe a point more than we are right now a game. It's not like it's
Trent, their wide
and
receivers two.
right
Their wide
now
receiver
right now
two
they
is
don't
T
have T
Higgins.
Higgins. Yes,
Their
right.
wide receiver two's fucking T Higgins. Ours is fucking Van Jefferson. Come on.
It won't be for long. Mike
That's a fair
Williams.
point. That's fair. That's fair. And they got Burrow. Now, I think the key to beating Cincy, you just pressure the fuck out of Burrow. You don't let him go. You blitz 7 every time because that
Yeah,
offensive line, oh, that
they're terrible.
offensive line is bad. Cleveland too. Oh, I can't wait to play Jameis Winston. Oh, Trent. Oh my God, dude, that guy's gonna get murdered. But again, it could be a game where like the Browns defense decides to become like the 85 Bears. I could just see it through my window right now. Who knows? But I don't think I think my last statement's going to be that I think that the way we're looking right now, Trent, winning a playoff game is definitely in question. Winning multiple playoff games is truly in question.
Yeah,
I mean, winning 10 games it's probably impossible that we don't at least win 10. I mean, me and you are talking right now,
I
we
feel like
should be able to win 11. Should. But I'm excited moving forward, man. If we could steal Baltimore this week, oh,
I think we're going to be in another must-win situation in Baltimore right now. Number one, we have a momentum built, and it's at home. And of course, we're going to dive into this next episode. But I, if you get that first one off of them, I don't know. I think you feel better about going into Baltimore later on. You know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah.
very difficult to win in their environment. It's very difficult for them to win in our environment. We have dominated this series in the past. They haven't had Derrick Henry in the past. It's going to be really interesting to break this game down next episode because this is going to be, not only is it just a rivalry, but like this is an absolute must win if you're going to win this division. If we
It's going
don't
to
win
be
this
more than
game, I don't think
likely.
we win the division. It's going to be that significant.
Yeah, it's more than likely going to be a pretty long episode Friday. I think we could both see that right now.
Yep. for sure.
So
I'm excited.
spoiler to the viewers, you're looking at probably an hour and 15 episode.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. That's kind of all I had for this one, man. I think that it's significant that we're talking about winning. We're having a chance to win the division right now because
Yeah, yeah.
neither of us picked our team to win the division. Neither one of us did. So the fact that we're here and we're still leading over halfway through the season, that's a big deal. So I'm glad we're here.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's not really a whole lot to say. This Washington game was just an off game for so many different ways, and I don't see it being like that during Baltimore. So definitely excited to talk on Friday about that team because you bet your ass I'll be on the all 22 on them all fucking week. Oh, I can't wait. These next 2 days, I'm gonna be all in on Baltimore. Every little thing they do wrong, I'm on it, man. Nobody I like playing more than Baltimore. So
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right, buddy. That's all I had on this one, quite
yeah,
honestly. So I thought this was a good win. I still don't think you can ever sell this win, and
yep,
glad
huge
to
must
see
win.
our defense played so well against such a really really great offense, and our offense, quite honestly, found a way to do enough to help this team win.
Hey,
So
good teams win, great teams find a way. So
that's right. So I love it. All right, everybody knows the deal. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Colin and I will be back with you on Friday. It's like he said, probably going to be a long one because it's Baltimore week. So we'll dive into that, and it's going to be interesting to see how we agree or disagree on how to slow down this Baltimore team. So appreciate you being with me again.
all right, man. Thanks again for
We'll
having me.
talk soon. We'll see you.